So of
Sorry,
course,
you're what? You're the deep.
yes, I am the deep state. I am the so-called éminence grise. So I am the one, hiding behind the curtains, basically pulling her strings. So obviously, on a day like this, I'm very busy.
Thank you very much, Britisher. We are live.
Yes, I am fully aware of that. Yes.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Fake Accents Unite. I'm so. It's sort of sad that you clicked that so early.
No, I'm afraid I did notice the little yellow light go on in the top right corner there.
I was hoping you were still loading the stream in the background. Who knew? Who knew? Yes. Sorry about the delayed start. A huge range of different things have gotten away this evening from work and all sorts. So just forgive us for being 10 minutes late. But we're here now, so this is a good thing. Happy New Year, Britisher. It's been a while.
Yes, it has indeed. Yes, Happy New Year to you too. I don't care about the rest of them out there. Just to you. Yes, happy.
Just to me. Yes.
Yeah.
Are you saying I'm the only palatable one now after the?
Well, no. It's just that obviously, with the new year coming along, I've decided to adopt a new attitude, and have decided I just won't care about the the great unwashed, the plebs out there. I'll kind of adopt a more let's call it Subri-esque attitude.
Subri-esque. It's the closest that we'll get to a diss track from you, Britisher. So I understand. People were telling me not to mention the dislikes. I'm not going to mention the dislikes. I'm not going to talk about the dislikes.
What are you not to mention and why?
I'm not to mention the dislikes because I mentioned them on my New Year's 5 days late for New Year's stream, and it got out of control.
So yeah, you mentioned dislikes, so suddenly your dislikes just rocketed, did they?
Well, I just pointed out that there's always one person who, before the stream starts, always dislikes, and of course, this led to dozens of people disliking the last video. And now I've mentioned
I had a group of Tommy Robinson supporters who, for a while, seemed absolutely determined to dislike my videos before they even could actually have watched them, if you know what I mean. So you put them up, they're half an hour long, and within 2 minutes they're already disliked.
Yes, indeed. 1 second.
We seem to temporarily have lost Not So Obvious. He is no doubt, trying to shake off the immense grief at seeing his dislikes rise. I'm not even looking at the moment.
I just had a moment to invite Tailed Feature to join us. That's all.
I see. So we're dragging in a Scottish influence. There you go.
I don't know why I asked you to stop talking, to be honest, given that we're on air and it's useful. I'll just be quiet for a moment.
Yeah, you just kind of asked me to sort of sit this one out, and then you decided to look up something. So I thought I'd try and cover the silence while you were doing whatever it was you were doing.
Okay. Announcements. So I have landed the Peter Hitchens interview that is going ahead on the 23rd of January at an undisclosed location in London. So yes, it's going to be fun. I'm really
check your pockets when you're finished with him.
Check my pocket. Why? Is it my why? He's not going to steal anything from me, is he? Apart from my soul.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that would more than likely be the chief target. But yes, well, yeah, I'm not one of the great fanboys when it comes to Peter Hitchens.
No, interesting. I think if I can get out of there with my legs intact, then I'll have successfully made it.
So you don't want to get one of his sort of great condescension moments where he just basically tears into you with one or two pithy remarks and then just stares at you in disdain.
I don't know. I could name the video Peter Hitchens destroys hapless interviewer at that point, don't you think?
Yes, of course. Yeah, destroys being in capitals, of course.
Yes. In fact, the whole thing in capitals.
And then the moment where he actually has made his pithy remark and you're looking rather helpless, that's the moment where you have to have the air horn sound effect.
Yes, I need to have those little black cartoon sunglasses come down.
There was a category of wrecked videos where they always played an air horn wherever the moment of embarrassment occurred, just in case the audience would otherwise miss it.
Well, it followed on from MLG videos. It followed on from sort of just massively over the top stuff, all these sound effects, which then came into common usage. And then
they were always at such a volume.
Yes,
that they
they're
would
massive.
basically shatter your eardrum.
And they'd
when they
usually
came in. Yes.
they'd usually flash up something like "RIP headphone users" on screen at the same time. That usually a blunt or a spliff or something would come down from the sky with the sunglasses to a freeze frame of whoever had done it.
Skeptic sunglasses. They were also there. Yes.
And then a like as the screen faded to grayscale, you would get the Snoop Dogg sort of music coming on in the background.
It's a shame that they don't really do that anymore, because there would be certain humorous effect of seeing kind of the freeze frame and the skeptic sunglasses descending onto the nose, and of course the spliff into the mouth of Jordan Peterson whilst the Snoop Dogg track comes in.
See, I think Jordan Peterson would be more amenable to that. What I think would be funnier is if you ended up having to do that to Peter Hitchens.
Yes, that is that. Yes.
Who has, in recent days, been somewhat preoccupied with trying to tear a new one into advocates for the legalization of cannabis.
Well, yes, because, of course, this is another one of those reasons why I'm such a tremendous fan of his. Or not, as the case may be.
Or not, as the case may be. I find his approach to the drug issue an interesting one.
What you're trying to say is wrong, but you're trying to remain polite, given that the interview is still upcoming.
Well, it's not even really that, because I think that he's probably, as far as people go, he's usually got at least some stats on his side, right? So even if he's incorrect, but so I'm interested to hear what his thought process is regarding that sort of thing. But that's not what the main
is. The thing is, when it comes to stats, this is why I've kind of got rather sick of stats. I mean, I've had people use stats, for years and years, and I know people kind of like to fall back on, stats shows that you've got the facts at your fingertips and facts are truth. Well, if you've been doing this game for long enough, you realize that stats aren't really truth.
There's the interpretation,
ammunition that basically both sides fire at each other. Because, funnily enough, you'll always discover that both sides feel that the stats back them up.
Well, there's a certain point at which, with every single statistic, particularly when you're talking about populations, like there's a huge issue. Like any psychological study, I basically consider to be unverifiable if it's below a certain amount of. If it's below a certain level of participants. So you'll get people like claiming psychological phenomena from a study of, 25 university students.
Yeah.
And it drives me mad. And then you get the people who, if they make things as macro as possible, can basically claim anything that they want.
There is also the claim that basically economy or crime has gone up or down between these two particular points, and you then sort of realize that both sides are basically choosing their points to best represent their argument, so that the volatility within is completely ignored, if you know what I mean.
I think the best example of the correct use of stats is when you can pull up sort of when you're presenting your stats, you bring up the stats which appear to refute it, and then you tie that in. But again, there is a reason why the old saying goes: there are lies, there are damn lies, and there are statistics.
Statistics, precisely.
So there's that.
And yeah, there's nothing quite as true. I still feel in the end you have to be able to make an argument, and that argument has to kind of ring true with your audience without you trying to bombard them with figures. Because everything can be presented in such a way that it is kind of it has an internal logic, if you know what I mean. We more than likely all watched what was he called, Al Gore and his Inconvenient Truth.
an inconvenient truth.
Yes, and
Yeah.
that's those are statistics. How do you want to quarrel with science? And you just go, well,
The
yeah,
interpretation.
except precisely the interpretation of those particular statistics, did beg certain questions.
Are you a
or-
climate
or
change? Are
ask
you a
certain
climate
questions.
change denier, Britisher?
Well, I have been called such. I believe that the climate is changing, but I how shall we say, I bristle when somebody tells me that 97% of all climate scientists agree that, and you go, yeah, they agree that the planet has warmed. That's what they agree on. When it comes to asking, sorry, was that my phone? My apologies.
Sorry?
When it comes to whether they actually agree on how much of it is man-made, that's when you suddenly realize that 97% figure just flies right out the window.
Yeah.
And it's that. So basically, we know that CO2 is a greenhouse gas. So if we are pumping out if we're pumping out tons and tons of the stuff, it will have an effect, because it's a greenhouse gas. But at the same time, it will also have certain reactions with the environment around it. So have we got any clue as to the scale of it? Well, that's when you've got these people who say absolute certainty that has been proven, there is no more debate, and you just go, this sounds very, very familiar to the whole social justice conversation.
I have to applaud you, Britisher, on managing to find a vinyl with what appears to be a Nokia ringtone on it to signal the arrival of your telegram. So
yes, indeed, yes.
Great. But we have just been joined this evening by Tailed Feature. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. The token Bulgarian is here. Fesker Ma.
Good to see you, man. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Even though it's 2 weeks late, and I should have done a fake accents unite last week and all sorts, but we're on a good track to start the year.
You're just a terrible person.
All I can say in that case is zdravejte. At least that's what I think hello means, is how it's pronounced in Bulgarian.
Oh, in Bulgarian.
You'd probably have a better idea than me, to be fair.
Well, Google can do all sorts of things.
He just speaks Bulgarian. He doesn't know what it means.
Exactly. Let's just speak bamboozle.
And here I invited PewDiePie on the stream this evening, but he unfortunately can't make it.
He had to decline, did he?
He had to decline in silence.
Well, he was too intimidated once he heard that you were in the near future interviewing Peter Hitchens.
Oh yes, and in such good company this evening on this stream. So
indubitably.
It's all good. Al Gore claimed Miami would be 10 feet underwater and the Arctic would have melted 10 years ago. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff at the moment, climate science-wise, regarding the next century, about tipping points and turning points. But to me, the trouble with it is it echoes a lot of the we're going to run out of oil by the 70s spiel stuff that I obviously remember being a child of the 90s. But when I was looking into that, 40% of round planets are flat. Oh god, not the flat earthers in chat as well.
The best thing with the flat Earth I ever saw was this absolutely ridiculous notion that the flat Earth is actually just a tiny little flat piece on a giant snowball. Right, so the snowball was that big that the world seemed flat. It was rather amusing.
Oh dear. Okay, so
yeah, I think with a lot of those conspiracies, because it's not just a flat Earth, it's many of the other conspiracies. One essential element is always lacking to the conspiracy, and that is, no matter how they try and explain, the various phenomena and whatever, they can never actually explain why anyone would go to such lengths as to, why would there be a global conspiracy to make out it's flat? Well, I'm not allowed to say global, a worldwide conspiracy.
Yes,
to make out that it's to make out that it's a globe rather than it's flat. Why would we basically swear all round the Earth yachtsmen to secrecy, so they don't actually tell the world that they've actually traveled the longest way around the world rather than the shortest way?
Well, don't you realise that the Flat Earth Society has members all around the globe, and so does the Jewish cabal that runs the Earth. So, I got invited to join a Discord server called Thonk or something like that, who do Ask Me Anythings and debates and so on and so forth. It's a very blood sportsy type thing, but they had a flat earther on there whose burden of proof was it had to be something that he could replicate, and video evidence was not to be trusted, and neither was the evidence of any scientist who had written down their results. So he had to have a way of provably doing it. And so he said, okay, well, you buy a weather balloon, you float it up high enough, and you will see, 1, the curvature of the Earth, and 2, you'll get space eventually. And he said, well, I did a similar experiment where I fired a bottle rocket up into the air, and I observed that what goes up must come down. Therefore, space doesn't exist.
Yeah,
And
it's the fact that some of them don't believe in gravity either. That's the
well,
thing.
there was a thing. What he was saying, if you make a vacuum, and then you put air into the vacuum, then the object that is in the vacuum gets lighter because of the air pressure on the object.
Well, the thing is that you will find that it is possible to kind of build worlds, to build arguments that are kind of pretty much impossible to unlock.
Well, he created a situation where there was no evidence that would satisfy him, and it wasn't that he could win; he just couldn't lose.
Well, have you ever heard about the question, is water wet?
Oh joy, yes.
So basically something that is touched by water can be wet, but can water itself be wet? Because something that is, if you spill a glass of water, then the tabletop is wet, but you can dry that, but you can't dry water, and so on. So you get into this kind of semantic knot from which there seems to be no escape, if you know what I mean.
That's I've heard philosophy there, isn't it, really?
And that's what I mean. That's how some of these things, and I would include, ladies and gentlemen, claiming that the Nazis were the left wing. It's kind of this kind of world whereby you can kind of construct something from which there is no sort of obvious escape, and yet it's really complete bollocks. And to
be fair, the left-right dichotomy is complete bollocks.
The flat earthers and whatever are kind of proof of that it is possible to kind of construct these worlds. I mean, if you think of it, ideologies per se are proof of that. Because, I mean, when you go back to the days of the Cold War and whatever, I mean, the this kind of Soviet bloc, they had an explanation for everything. Everything was perfectly rational. They could explain anything. And that kind of proves the point. That it's kind of possible to kind of bend one's perception to pretty much any view.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you, Britcher. If only on the Nazis were not left wing. I mean, they were economically left wing and they were culturally right. But the people in chat are also saying water is wet because water molecules rest on other water molecules. Water is only not wet if it is one molecule.
I will refer you to the water isn't wet crowd. Please talk to them, not to me. As far as I'm concerned, water is wet because it's water, and common sense. Therefore, I don't need a proof.
Common sense is very.
There is no need to have a lengthy debate about water being wet.
I mean, it's kind of the height of academic. It's the kind of the height of academic hubris, isn't it? So.
Well, but then again, this is the kind of thing that happens in the kind of academic ivory towers. That how many we've all heard, about the theologians who were debating how many angels could balance on the head of a needle. It's that kind of stuff they get into. That's why they come up with social justice and these kind of doctrines.
I just enjoyed hearing the British are saying the word wet several times.
Well, yes, and if you actually listened closely enough, at one point actually let slip the word bollocks.
You did, but I preferred hearing you say wet in that.
Yes, but of course, I was referring to the medieval colloquialism for monks, which was ballocks, which over time
Of
could be
course.
construed to be
course.
bollocks, because that was the defense. That was one of the defenses that the lawyer deployed when defending a certain punk band way back when.
Can you say 4 words for me, Butcher? I want you
No.
to say barracks. I want you to say smack. And I want you to say crack. And I want you to say sly sneak.
Sorry, barracks, smack,
Yes.
crack, and sly sneak.
Yes.
Yes,
Right,
I've
you
now
might wanna say
sold
smack
my
again.
soul to the devil. but there you go.
Anyone who wants to clip
You
part
might
of
want to
this
say
show,
smack again because you were speaking at the same time. Mark.
I'm sure maybe
I
there'll be a
could
way.
possibly repeat myself.
You couldn't. But if anyone finds another word which rhymes with crack, then you can edit together a sly sneak rap response video. That'll be fun in the British's voice. That could be entertaining. Whether anyone puts in that effort, though. I'm going to go through some super chats now because they've been rolling in the background, and I don't want people to think I'm forgetting them. So, Tim Cornish has donated $9.99. Thank you very much, sir. And says, NSO and hashtag monetize the Britisher. He is monetized now, as a surprise. He is. Are at the top of my viewership with a certain bearded Swindon resident. 10k subscribers, ho. Oh, thank you very much. 10k
No
subscribers.
idea who the bearded Swindon resident would
Oh,
be.
never heard of him.
Oh no, hang on. He's that fledgling little channel that we've supported once or twice, isn't he?
Oh, yes, that we occasionally give, the joy of our company to. It's so nice to help smaller creators out.
Precisely. Yes. Once in a while, you kind of, you have to do the right thing and help out one of the small guys.
He's not that small. He's quite thick.
Good point. Sutskoen has given 50 Danish kroner. Thank you very, very much. British, are you saying you haven't heard of the 15x speed and no forgiveness until Brexit succeeds, Brussels burns?
The 15x speed. No, I have no idea what we're talking about.
I presume that this was referencing something earlier in the stream, but Brexit will come up later in the stream for those of you wondering and are hanging around for that, because Theresa May is going, quite ham this evening. JS has given £2 and says no money to get to London, just hitch a ride. I can get through London, however, it's hiring the meeting space because he doesn't want to travel very far. So I'm having to hire a meeting room for a couple of hours, and it's going to cost about £60.
You could always hire one of those tents outside the Houses of Parliament.
Just meet on the grass outside.
A shanty town.
Yeah.
And
Well,
perhaps some helpful YouTubers could set themselves up in yellow vests and start chanting.
Oh, for goodness sake. Whilst he's there and everyone's shouting Brexit and he's going, depart the European Union, because he hates the word Brexit. There we go. So, yes, thank you very much for your donations. They're all going towards basically getting this interview done.
So how much are you short?
About 55 quid. So it's the joy, because I'm about break even on my finances at the moment, but it's fine. Enigmatic has given £10. That says, good evening, NSO and Britisher. These are all before you arrived, Tailed Feature, so don't feel too left out.
Don't worry, I don't.
So I must say, this is quite the birthday present. At any rate, keep up the good work. Good luck with Hitchens. Thank you, and God bless. Oh, thank you very much, Enigmatic. And happy birthday. Very much. Happy birthday to you. JS, another £2. And it says, oh, God. It says, shag or die, Tommy Robinson or James Goddard? I don't know. I think I'd rather die, do you know? As much as I like Tommy Robinson for some of his stuff, I don't swing that way. Yourself, Britisher, do you have a preference?
Well, it would definitely be death. I think people who have followed my commentary in that direction would know that the choice would be death.
Very good.
And I would choose precisely how people were to kill you. Given that I didn't want to have sex with Tommy Robinson, but we would just leave that to the moment. But given that one of the references was just mentioning monetization, I've just checked, and it appears now that my latest Week That Was is now monetized again.
Hurrah!
Because
the majority of its views.
Precisely, yes. The initial reaction was to demonetize it.
Welcome to the political wing of YouTube, I'm afraid, Brisha.
Indeed.
Because
now that I am
a clip with no swearing, nothing that abjectly controversial in it or whatever. It's simply just covering the events of the week.
I think it's more that just premium ads do not get put on political content, and so what ends up happening is you get limited almost immediately for doing something serious. And then you get, when it gets reviewed and you go, oh, it's not that controversial, you can have ads back. But then even then, no one wants to put proper ads on. So unless you can find a way to sneak something in.
In that case, I will take this opportunity to blame YouTube for the inhumane treatment of animals. Because if it weren't for YouTube, there wouldn't be that many YouTubers operating literal kitten and puppy farms in order to have enough material to film and put up on YouTube.
What? Okay. I mean, the Britisher of the RSPCA there. Donate today to help a kitten farm near you be rehomed.
The problem with your That Was the Week That Was is that obviously you release it at a certain time, whereas more general kind of videos can be left unlisted first. And then when they get demonetized, you can request a manual review at that point. Yeah. Whereas you can't really do that with your weekly roundups.
Well, this one was actually quite sneaky because I did, because of copyright things and stuff like that, I always basically first put everything up unlisted. And when I put it up unlisted, it showed as monetized.
Oh, yes.
Then I put it into public. And then it went unmonetized.
Did you do?
And they don't tell you. They don't tell you either, do they?
No, the same thing happened to my Pearson video. Do you do your tags before you do your unlisting? Because the tags make a big difference.
I think I do. Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, the audience doesn't care about the goings on of the YouTubers and all the silly stats that we have to deal with.
Suffering of our martyrdom. Yes.
Check your PayPal, Mark.
So I will do. Thank you very much. Lord Pterodax says, can we have yours and British's thoughts on AA's new unpopular opinions lineup? I do not know what to think and haven't had an opinion of my own as of yet. Oh, God. They were all from the Discord, weren't they? As far as I was aware. And it was Captain Switzerland as well. But I didn't watch the episode, so I can't really pass comment. I just hope... I know that Volpez was on, and I just hope to God that he got a better microphone after his last showing. No hate towards Volpez, but he did need better microphone.
Well, I actually expressed my opinion on air at the time via the chat, and the academic agent was helpful enough to read it out. So it is actually already a matter of public record.
Oh, lovely. Do tell. You just repeat for us.
If I recall correctly, when his stream started, I looked at it and I typed, "Who are these amateurs?"
Strong. Nice. Let me see. Yes. Skoen, another 50 kroner. Thank you very much. Stats are like bikinis. They hide the most important parts. Proverb from a wise Danish teacher. Who just wanted to really talk about bikinis, I'm sure. But no, accurate. Christian Verti.
There's nothing like creating a piece of swimwear that is named after a radioactively contaminated Pacific atoll. But please go on.
I did watch a documentary on the creation of the bikini ones. I can't remember why.
Yes, I just thought for the moment. I think you must have had a certain motivation that went beyond kind of the tailoring.
No, I really don't. I don't think so. It was like 2:00 in the morning or something, and I just got home and I couldn't.
It's not so obvious. Not even you were quite that sad.
I am or was that sad that day. But Christian Verti has come up with a title for your next video, Britisher, for €2, right? So it's very cheap of him to charge this. He's not charging this. Ugh. He's even paid you to have this title. He says, Britisher destroys, in capitals, science with common sense.
Yes, thank you. Yeah,
So-
no doubt. Yeah, that no doubt will be my next video. Yes.
If you don't make a video like that, I'm going to be
in which
dreadfully
I will
disappointed.
just, with simple common sense, disprove everything Stephen Hawking ever said.
Yes, a brief history of time. Nah, psh, you're going to throw that across the room
Precisely.
in your
yeah.
face reveal, obviously. It's just... What, you think you're whack? Roger's
That's when I suddenly basically switch on the camera and change my voice, and I am Peter Hitchens.
Oh my god, no.
Yeah.
No. No, oh no. That's
It's a
just
bit
not-
like, please, now comes a cultural shock, ladies and gentlemen. A bit like Fantomas. Everyone, I can pretty much sense everyone frantically Googling right now.
Yeah, just
who is
going,
listening to this.
Oh,
I know it's a
Britisher.
band. I know there's a band called Phantomas.
I am not referring to a band.
No,
I know
didn't
you're
think you
not, but
might.
I'm especially not this kind of band.
I am
The
referring
idea.
to a series of French films in which I believe it was Louis de Funès who played the bumbling inspector,
Oh, of course.
and he was always hunting Fantomas, the supervillain, a kind of
The Pink Panther. Yeah.
It was a bit like the Pink Fat Panther, indeed. Except the supervillain in this was very much kind of Bond inspired, of course, and he was some kind of faceless entity, and he would, for most of the time, you would think he was one of the characters in the film, until eventually, of course, he pulled off his face to reveal the kind of undoomed kind of visage, and he was Fantomas. So there you go, just for
There we
people
go,
who are,
thank
of
you.
course, completely oblivious to anything that ever happened on the continent other than, the Battle of Waterloo. There you go.
Well, Britisher, let no man tear asunder the opinion that your anecdotes are a valued and important part of Fake Accents Unite. We appreciate them all the same.
And just so you know, the films are not worth watching. They're complete rubbish.
Okay, it's good to know.
So there you go. Yes. I just thought I would, just to save everyone time, because otherwise at the next Fake Accents Unite, we will be getting accusations of poor souls out there having wasted 3 hours of their time to watch 1 or 2 films of this.
It can't be worse than Sallow. Rogers that 95 has donated £5 and says he speaks for all minion kind. He is Minion Mark, and then he says capitalism ho in Welsh, which I can't pronounce. But thank you for that £5. Capitalism succeeds again. Joel Kelly, £7 for your Hitchens interview. Thank you very much, Joel Kelly. That Indian dude, $5 Australian. If the BBC is so diverse, why is EastEnders so white? Reboot EastEnders and make the show about feuding Pakistani and Somali crime families and their dramas. Personally, I'd watch that over EastEnders, to be perfectly honest.
Well, I think we'll more than likely all be forced by law to watch EastEnders soon, simply just due to the horrendous amount of money that series is spending.
I have no idea. I've never watched an episode of
Well,
it, and I never intend to.
I had it on one of the recent Weeks That Was episodes, in which it was revealed that they have their outdoor shoots in which they're obviously seen walking in the streets of the East End, if you know what I mean.
I'm sorry, Britisher. I'm going to interrupt you just for a moment
Go
to
ahead.
bring something up before it gets lost in
Before
chat.
it's too late, yes.
Zerset Store says, understanding a Britisher reference brings my advancing age into sharp focus. So you can go back to your anecdote now. Thank you.
Well, there you go. Welcome to the other side. Yes. No, but when it comes to the EastEnders thing, they were pulled up by, what do they call the National Audit Office or whatever? Because the BBC had pretty much overrun by 50% on their building of the backdrop, for EastEnders. So the stuff they're rebuilding for their outside shoots. Because previously, they were kind of like Hollywood props, where it's just scaffolding behind and you've got building fronts, if you know what I mean. So they've kind of been arguing, oh, well, this was supposed to be temporary all along. It was only supposed to last 3 years or so. So now they've built this thing. Well, they're building it. They still haven't finished. So they've still got more time to have budgetary overruns. So at the time they came out and they had budgeted something like 56 or 57 million pounds for this project. They've overrun this by 50%. They are now somewhere in 80 million territory.
Oof.
This is for outside backdrops for a soap opera
Grief.
that nobody outside Britain, I think except for the Aussies or whatever, who do an exchange whereby they provide the BBC.
They send us neighbours.
Yeah, well, there you go. So, they provide something in exchange for what they get or whatever. But I very much doubt that EastEnders is a big hit on Japanese television or something like that, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
But if you think of it, if you think of the dollar exchange rate, 80 million pounds is not that far off $100 million.
No.
You can make a Hollywood blockbuster with that. Whereas we're providing a backdrop for a mediocre soap opera.
Publicly funded institution goes way over budget. Imagine my shock.
So that's why I've got the feeling, we'll soon more than likely all be ordered to watch EastEnders just in order to make it worth their while.
But when I was in New Zealand, I thought it was quite funny because they were about 2 or 3 months behind on the soap operas. And at the time, I knew someone. I know you're going to say, no, it was you that watched them. Yeah, whatever. But no, I never watched them, but I knew plenty of people who did. So I had a vague understanding of what some of the major
some of them with some of them, knowledge of what happens in those series is inescapable. I'll grant you that. Yes.
Yeah. So when I was there, and they went, oh well, we can only be chatting here until whatever time it was, 7 o'clock or something, because Coronation Street's going to come on. And I hadn't even thought, I just thought, what? You guys have watched Coronation Street? Like, oh yeah, we absolutely love it. We absolutely love it. And then when I had to sit and watch it with them because I was staying with this family, and I was just like, wait a minute, I know what happens here, and they're all like, shh, no spoilers.
Did you pretend to be Scottish God at that point?
No,
like Bill Murray in Groundhog Day. I live this day over and over again.
It would then be almost even more impressive if you would have had some kind of intimate knowledge of it, to the point where you would be able to say, that glass falls off the table any moment now. There you go. That would be
the funniest sort of soap opera thing I saw was when I went to Kenya, because they're obsessed with anything European, and so they've got this great love of British football, for instance, but they have this this huge thing about Italian soap operas. And if you've ever seen an Italian soap opera, it's the most over-the-top thing you have ever seen in your entire life. It's all subtitled in English because it's the common language, but so I could understand what's going on. And to this day, I still wonder whether or not Franco got caught cheating with 2 of his co-workers' wives. It's just like the things that you end up seeing on like the on the coach over to the nearest city or whatever.
I think on the scale of lunacy, South American soap operas are supposed to be the quintessential ones. There is even more drama in South American soap operas that I would assume Italian soap operas can muster.
I'll take your word for it, British.
They're supposed to be, close to, religious viewing in South America.
The people are curious, by the way, British, about whether or not you had any rough years in your great history. There has been some discussion about whether or not you were actually Genghis Khan. in your in your past,
And
you were just
that is rebellious.
yeah. And he was just getting it out of his system before he became the person he is today.
Well, yeah, there is indeed that possibility, of course. And thinking of it, Genghis Khan did spend quite a bit of time getting things out of his system, given that a substantial part of the global population is actually directly descended from him. Have you heard of that or not? That one found a common ancestor in Central Asia.
Yes, he raped his way across the world.
Precisely, yes.
I always just imagine the Britishers' life to be just like the Archers, really. That's based on his life.
Of course. That makes perfect sense now you put it that way, Toad.
I always found it wonderful. I found it a wonderful touch that, the Ronnie Barker series, Porridge.
Yes.
The chief villain, Grouty, or Mr. Grout, as he was referred to by anybody who was obviously terrified of him. He listened to the Archers whilst in prison. Never missed an episode.
Strong. The Sitskoen has sent 20 kroner. I don't really understand this super chat, but do my best. I think it's the wrong stream for, and then in full Thark, he's put FR and replying to Rogers that, talking capitalism ho. So I have no idea what this means. You don't have to pay me, but you can explain it in the chat if you want. Sitskoen. Thank you very much. Tim Cornish has given another $10 and says, your monetization, I presume that he's talking to you, Britisher, in this, doesn't explain the non-stop Mazda adverts and offers to make 10k each month on Facebook. This is probably the work of Sly Sneak. And
I don't know what to say to that.
Apparently you're just... have you accepted any sponsorships from Mazda?
I'm a front for Mazda, am I?
Well, you have to admit it makes sense. The world is a donut, and you are sponsored by Mazda. As you do. Did you work in all those Mazda references to your latest The Week That Was for nothing?
Well, it's more than likely, given what everyone seems to think of me, it must be relevant that don't Mazda cars, many of them, run with Wankel motors? So there you go.
I beg your pardon.
What? Wankel motors? I don't.
Have you checked your PayPal yet, Mark?
I have not. My phone is across the way. Just bear with me. But I presume you've sent me some money, and
I've sent you some money. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Toad. I appreciate
Well, you see, if you have a kind of non-piston engine, where the car is driven by another means, then I believe that is actually a Wankel motor. But obviously, this was. Let's just say it was a play on words.
Can you say the word tank?
Apparently not.
Oh dear, I just thought. The possibilities, Britisher. I mean,
Yes,
really,
I think they'll have enough fun editing Wankel motor to say whatever it is.
What if you said bollocks barracks, Wankel tankle. The Reawakening has donated, I presume, for the first time, unless they've changed their name recently. Thank you very much. Has given £2 and says, and a bottle of Oasis for Hitchens. Thank you. Dylan98 has given €5 and says the Britisher, the Bristisher, as it's spelled, is a champagne
from Bristol. This is Bristolian.
Oh yes, the Bristolshire is a champagne socialist and Lib Dem supporter who doesn't understand the struggles of the working class. Is it true that you're not a friend to the working man, Britisher?
Yeah, I've got the feeling this is more than likely just an alter ego of our friend, the academic agent, who's writing in here.
I don't even know. Sly Sneak is actually in chat, and he is posting lyrics from his own beatdown video.
Of course he is.
Saying
yes. I just time him out, really.
You ain't Minion Mark, you ain't even Mace. It's like, and that sort of thing. Oh dear.
Paolo Maldini looks good in lace. Yes.
You need to help me. It's definitely not going to get clipped. You need to help me, British. What is the name of one of those vehicles which has a long tube for firing munitions on it? I can't remember. Usually used in war. We had a lot of them. The Panzer was one, I believe. What is this?
I believe the colonials refer to them as armor.
Oh, for goodness sake! The strong effort, though. Christian,
The French call it un char.
I don't know. I'm not French.
You're telling me what the Germans call it.
What did the British call it?
Wasn't it a Mark 1?
It's just desperately searching for the.
What's that thing that's part of your heating system?
A Centurion, a Challenger.
What were the things which they were amphibious?
Cromwell, wasn't there also a Cromwell? A Churchill.
Right. We'll give up. We'll give up for now. We'll get you another time.
Now, what's the receptacle of water in a
underneath your house? Yes,
in a heating.
A boiler.
No, the water.
Where was the water stored?
Well,
in a septic
water storage facility, obviously.
In a septic what, Britisher? The Christian Verti is given €2 and says, Mazda is the best car company, though. I mean, if you like Mazdas, more power to you, Christian. I'm not going to stop you buying one. Lord Pterodax, £5. The Great Wall of China was built for the Britisher, as there were no fences suitable for him to sit on. In his rebellious youth, he was a bit more ostentatious than he is today.
Okay, that was good.
I love that this comes in the wake of you making your "So I'm a Centrist, Am I?" video. That was brilliant. Dylan98 has come back with €2 and says, I am just joking. But what are your thoughts on May's no deal stance? Yes, she has changed her tune, hasn't she, recently?
Well, if I remember correctly, her new stance is now vote for this or it is the end of the world.
Basically.
It will be the second coming
of Satan, yes. Let me see. The Guardian has done a live summary and says that Theresa May urged Parliament to give her deal a second look tomorrow, as MPs prepare to vote tomorrow, acknowledging for the first time that it represents a compromise, but warned MPs, here we go, that rejecting her deal would be the same as a refusal to deliver the result of the referendum, and that the eyes of history were upon the MPs.
Oh, yes, I caught the eyes of history.
The eyes of history. It's like, yes.
Well, she didn't say it exactly like that. She kind of opened a phrase in which she sort of said, well, when history looks back. And before she could actually speak the rest of the sentence, Parliament was already laughing, if you know what I mean.
Yes. That's horrendous. Basically. The Labour leader, Jeremy Corbyn, said May has filed to get the deal she wanted and said that as she headed for a Commons defeat, as she must, that she must stop trying to force MPs to vote for her deal, saying opposition acts in opposition manner. Like, I mean, what's really Theresa May has said she wants this and I don't. Therefore, she shouldn't do this. Okay. She has refused to categorically rule out an extension of Article 50. It got so bad that Gareth Johnson resigned because he said that he just cannot support the deal, perpetually constrained by the European Union.
I mean, you point out what the leader of the opposition said, but then the leader of the opposition at least is the leader of Her Majesty's opposition. I mean, that's his job, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
But then there is also another group, and that is the SNP,
yes,
whose rhetoric is constantly based around, this is an insult to the people of Scotland.
Yes, there's also that.
And it is just, an endless amount of outrage coming from that particular corner. And it's just basically a mantra that just keeps on repeating itself. But Scotland voted to remain. Scotland voted to remain. This is an insult. The government is ignoring the people of Scotland.
We
and
also
so on.
voted
It's
to
kind of-
remain in the UK, so
It's also, how do we say, it's almost as though he's kind of a pale version of David Lammy, just with that being
Careful.
his pet subject, if you know what I mean.
David Lammy himself has come under fire this week, given that he said something along the lines of like broken families and black communities are the biggest problem faced by the black community in Britain. And people pointed out that the internet doesn't forget, and that he had released a piece 3 years previously basically shredding a white guy for making the exact same observation as a racist. So yes, he's been enjoying himself there. Let me see. It just
David Lammy contradicting himself, that could never happen.
Let me see. Alongside, well, this whole week's news has really been Theresa May's deal, David Lammy's cock up. Bolsonaro has caused untold damage in Brazil. I don't know how to feel about.
What has Bolsonaro actually done?
Well,
he's not been in power that long.
A week. He's been in a week. As of last Thursday.
Okay, so basically he won, and then there was an amount of time in which power was handed over effectively.
Yes, in effect.
Okay. So I think it's fair to assume that in a week he hasn't yet really done that much.
Well, here we go. There is a Guardian article, Britisher Untailed, which says he's been president a week, and already Bolsonaro is damaging Brazil. His messianic brand of capitalism threatens minorities and the rainforest. So, because of course his whole thing is basically, I'm not going to take any Marxist crap. Also, I don't like gays very much. Also, I'm going to start removing all the sanctions on cutting down the rainforest, and we're going to do whatever we damn well please.
True, and the latter is more than likely not a particularly good idea.
No, well, any of it.
I think we can agree on that, right?
We can agree that the first one is wonderful, and the second one is not great, and the third one is not great.
Yeah, if he's choosing not to be politically correct, then I don't think there will be too many people, given the present climate, other than the social justice crowd, who will be crying great tears over it. But as such, when it comes to the rainforest and whatever, yeah, this is more than likely something we should look out for. So I think we're in danger of basically having a situation where we will have one side just like this Guardian article, just decrying everything the man says, but we will have the other side in just the same fashion, saying what for a lovely man he is, even when he's kind of, overseeing the devastation of Brazilian rainforest. So chances are we're just going to get stupidity from both sides, as per usual. And that's me firmly seated on the Chinese wall again. As a terrible centrist, but I've got the feeling that yes, there is more than likely some truth to that.
Could we please have a meme of the Britishers sitting on the Great Wall of China? Please, I know it's horrendous. The I don't know.
Would I be like Gulliver in Gulliver's Travels in Lilliput?
More like Humpty Dumpty.
In which I'm so kind of giant Britisher seated on the Lilliputian Chinese wall.
Yes, with a Genghis Khan beard offering the short bow to some mounted troops.
No, I think that would be a little too confusing.
It's an in-joke.
Yeah,
I think this meme is
I'm not
already
sure to what extent I would still look like the Britisher, but there you go.
Yes. People are asking what happened to discussing literature with Sarah. Unfortunately, Sarah can't join us this evening, but as literature is her hot topic of choice.
Sarah will have heard that his good self, Tail Feature, and myself were coming on, so she decided that if the riffraff were showing up, then she had better things to do. I'm quite sure that will have been the case.
She
Can you
just knows
say-
that she wouldn't get a word in for me talking about literature.
Oh, of course. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you would have spent the whole time quoting Burns, wouldn't you?
Burns.
Burns.
I mean,
Rappy Burns.
Look, there's no need to there's no need to bring the Simpsons into this, right? Okay. The
What, groundskeeper Willie?
just Mr. Burns. The that was a terrible joke. I regret making it. The
Feel bad.
people talking about Bolsonaro, saying Lammy as well, a man who's paid 77k by the mainly white British taxpayer plus pension plus perks, whilst telling the out of work sort of white working class about how privileged they are. Just what we need in Parliament. Yes, David Lammy. It's amazing how many politicians are in Parliament despite having no grounds to be. At least David Lammy can, I suppose, string a sentence together somewhat more than Diana Abbott, which makes him somewhat more dangerous, but at the same time, it does beg a belief that some people are in office at all.
Then again, somebody recently pointed this out to me, and just in defense, it was not Jim. It was not Grim Jim. I know there's quite a few people out there who now hate him with a passion because it was on my channel.
Mm-hmm.
I still like the chap. But I was speaking to someone recently about Brexit and whatever, and when it came to some of the nonsense coming from Parliament, that person smiled at me and said, "Well, but that's what you want, isn't it? You want these people to have more say." And there is sadly some truth to that. With Brexit, we are giving the David Lammys of this world more power.
No, why do you have to depress me, Brisha? I mean, honestly, like this is supposed to be our sort of relaxed, enjoyable stream.
Well, no, I just thought I would point that out.
Yes.
Well, he's not really going to have any more power, though, is he? Because he's in opposition.
Well, yeah, well, it's presuming that we don't end up with an
Well, in
opposition
that case, you're
government
giving
next time.
Anna Soubry more power.
I literally can't hear the name of pretty much any Labour politician nowadays without cringing. And the same is also marginally true for the
Or, I
Conservatives.
mean, perhaps more true than with anybody else. You're giving Theresa May more power.
I don't think we're not giving any of those people more power. We're giving the civil service more power. Let's be honest.
Also entirely possible. Speaking of Sarah, though, unfortunately, I'm deferring the literature until she is well again, because she, it's her forte, and she's got lots to say on it topic. So I said that I would change the topic. Hence why we are Fake Accents Unite Spontaneous Topics Edition today. But it's a bit of fun. That Indian dude has donated 20 Australian dollars. Thank you very much. That's very generous of you. And says Indian soap operas, going back to soap operas, are the worst. There was an entire episode about not enough salt in a lentil soup. For all the flack YouTube gets, it has enabled Indian YouTubers to bypass mainstream studio houses and create quality content. Are you going to call T-Series quality content, that Indian dude? I think not. But thank you for giving me an opportunity to put T-Series versus PewDiePie in my tags for this stream. So I can get many more views.
I almost died there. I just did one of those lethal chokes that kind of goes that deep down. It kind of hurts your chest, if you know what I mean.
You didn't have enough salt in your lentil soup,
yeah,
did you?
It was the entire episode on not enough salt. Yeah.
Could you say the word cantankerous?
No, but I could always, of course, talk about politics, and
Politanks.
What they kind of say in ridiculous places like the Mises Institute, where they just basically take a name, just like the Anne Frank Institute in California. They just attach a name that has nothing to do, and in reality, all they are just a right-wing think tank.
There you go.
Can you say? Can you also say? Yes, but can you also say destitute? The Liberal Sardos is today.
This is supposed to be some diss track, isn't it? So it wouldn't be destitute. It would have to be prostitute, wouldn't it?
prostitute and destitute.
There
Oh,
you go.
please, dear God, we're gonna set the deep law on this. Liberal Zardos has donated £2 and says Sly Sneak and NSO need a Bollywood face-off.
Nice.
They're going to come in riding an elephant to, sort of the Bollywood soundtrack. The Harry Channel has donated $10. Thank you very much. And said, here's money for a sandwich at Pret when you interview Hitchens. Also, Garfield Kart is for incels. Do not play it. And finally, Britisher, please do not join the rap wars.
But hang on a moment. That was for a sandwich at Pret.
Yes.
But who on earth is going to serve you?
I presume
3,
some lovely
2,
immigrant family.
1. Okay, yeah, please continue.
Okay, just let that all go over ahead. Garfield Kart is indeed for incels. They forced me to buy it. I can't stream it. I will not stream it for now, at least. Britisher, please don't join the rap wars. Well, you won't by choice, will you, Britisher? I mean, really?
No, but I've got the feeling that I was kind of going to be in it anyway.
Find a way.
Yeah, now they even got me saying in it. Yeah.
In it, bruv.
I have. This is probably the most creative name for a donator above sort of my second favorite, which was Sir Martin Luther Pepe, right? Ganjiblob Flankis. What a name.
Yeah, there is someone who has more than likely read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy just once too often.
Oh, yes. £5 says, no deal is better than a...
By the way, is it a donator? I always thought it would be a donor.
Either or. I mean,
Okay.
One's an Americanism, I know, but there you go. No deal is better than...
Please don't let me down with Americanisms. I was just watching Sargon the other day, and he actually said schedule.
Oh, as opposed to schedule. Ugh.
Yes.
And it's like, is he the sort of person who says decade instead of decade?
do you say shul instead of school then?
No, but I say scone instead of scone. No deal is better than a bad deal equals a bad deal is the best you will get. Why wizard words, as Owen Benjamin would say. Entirely plausible. Just no deal is better than a bad deal. It just is. And then a bad deal is the best you'll get. I just don't.
Well, did anybody see that video of Shinobi Yakas on the what is it? I think it was former head of MI6 and the former head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff have together written a letter first to the government, and they got nowhere with it. So now they've actually reissued a letter of sorts and sent it to all the chairmen of the Tory associations in order to try and get them to kind of browbeat their MPs, because they are saying there is some stuff hidden in the agreement that actually threatens our national security arrangements.
Yes, funny that.
And it's just remarkable that, nobody seems to be reporting on that.
All the stuff about the national security side of Brexit is kind of a funny thing, because we lose access to like the combined database that the EU manages, but we fall back on like the pre-existing databases that are designed for working with places like America, for instance, the way they share data with them. So it's not quite as comprehensive, but it's nowhere near as we're going to lose all access to every single piece of security information that we have. It's like, no,
I think that far worse. There will be a duty upon us to share certain information, and the Americans and whatever have already indicated that they're not particularly comfortable with that, because we have access to a joint pool of information that comes from the Five Eyes, which is effectively the Anglosphere. And we therefore have access to the joint pool, but the information we have access to might not necessarily have been acquired by us. So we might have access to information that the Canadians or the US have gathered.
Right.
And we might then find ourselves in a situation where we are obliged to hand that over to the Europeans, which therefore the Five Eyes, and the US in particular, is not a great fan of.
Certainly the tensions between the European Union and America are heating up some, with a somewhat more overt.
Well, yes, but what I'm sort of getting at is we are pretty much the kind of A grade of ally. So too the other 3 Five Eyes of the United States. We are the ones they trust most closely. So much so they effectively pool their security information with us. Something they don't do with other close allies such as Israel or Japan, if you know what I mean. So they operate in a way that they don't do with other people who are nonetheless friendly nations. So therefore, they are very concerned as to whom we share this stuff with. And indeed, Europe may be seen as friendly, but they don't necessarily trust, I don't know, the secret services of Lithuania to the same extent that they would trust us.
No.
And therefore, if we are making stuff available to them under an obligation to do so, then of course that endangers their sharing that information in future with us.
I'll need to look into it with more detail, because I just do not know at this point. I'm out of the loop, as it were.
Well, as I say, the two people speaking about this, are basically former head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the Defense Force and the former head of MI6. So these are not really lightweights in that regard. So it does seem these would be people who know what they're talking about. And they are kind of warning that this would be a great mistake.
But is this a greater threat than the super gonorrhea that's going to come across the channel?
Yes, of
That's
course.
the question. Not to mention losing access to the what is it, the space debris warning system. So obviously all these satellites are going to start crashing into us. Did either of you hear of the outrage by the chief of the port of Calais when he heard we were making alternative arrangements for transport routes in order to avoid massive backlogs? And
yes,
he assured
it was all fine.
And he assured us there will be no backlogs, that Calais is actually perfectly prepared to deal with us on WTO rules.
Yes, and they said that there won't even be a slowdown in the traffic. That they maintain, because of course there's been a lot of talk of the lorries will be backed up in Calais or whatever, but they won't be, according to Calais. So they're saying no, it'll be fine.
Did you hear? I think it was Michael Fabricant, the Tory MP with the suspicious hair.
Yes, I didn't recognize the name, but I've got him now. Yeah,
he tweeted. He tweeted out a photograph of a minister coming out of some cabinet meeting or whatever, in which a note was just coincidentally sticking out of the diary he was carrying.
Oh, I seem to recall this. Yes, go on.
And point 1 on the note was no food, and point 2, no channel tunnel. And now the thing is that when a minister walks up and down Downing Street these days, they know full well that if they are carrying anything that can be read, it will immediately be zoomed in on by the press. Because there have in recent years been cases where this, became rather embarrassing, where it did happen unwittingly. So they all know now. So if someone is walking out of Downing Street 10 with something legible on show that is supposed to be coincidental, you can bet your bottom dollar it will not be coincidental.
Yes.
So yes, a minister walking out with no food and no channel tunnel showing, that was clearly kind of a way of kind of providing semaphore messages to the press, as in, focus on this, please. Report this to the public. And there was even, who was it to put this up? I think it was CNN who actually reported on it first, that there are some companies selling kind of survival packs as Brexit survival packs. for as
Oh,
much
yeah,
of
Brexit survival. I should have
yes.
capitalized on that. I should
So,
have made
so there
them.
are sort of I think it's sort of either £200 or £400 worth or whatever of astronaut food, if you know what I mean.
Yes, in effect.
Because obviously, come Brexit, everything's going to grind to a halt, and we're not going to have any food. So, if you have your Brexit survival pack, you will be the one who's still laughing.
Joy. The just so people are saying this was a storyline on the thick of it, and apparently fake news, photoshopped or similar.
Oh,
But
well, in that case, I apologize. I saw it on Twitter earlier today.
I have no. I saw it come up months and months and months ago. So if it's come up again, it's most likely a rehash. But I don't know how many avocados in the Brexit survival pack, says Captain Switzerland. Just enough, but no knife. We can't risk the avocado hand. I'll tell you what, though, we will. I want us to finish off this evening with some silly stories, right? Because this is all terribly depressing. So, I have 3 stories here for us. The first of which is: have you heard of the picture of an egg that's been going around at the moment?
I can honestly say I have not heard of the picture of an egg going round. No.
So there was this huge thing because one of the world's most vacuous people, Kylie Jenner, had this huge thing about having the most popular Instagram post in the world, or some such nonsense. And she's just lost her world record title for the most liked picture on Instagram to a picture of an egg, which had the caption "Egg Squad Unite" or something like that. And gained over 18 million likes.
This is why we need Brexit.
This is why we need Brexit. Oh, it has 29 million now. The simple picture of an egg is captioned, "Let's set a world record together and get the most liked post on Instagram, beating Kylie Jenner's currently held record. We got this." That's just got 30. It's just a picture of an egg. I mean, like, it's a white background and an egg. They're just the pure power of the internet, despite any member of the Kardashian family, is truly staggering. There we go. Talk about the overweight horses, says Maven Politic. Vets are warning that overweight horses are now the norm. Okay, I've got to look this up now. Now the norm. On the horse forum, yes. No, that's like 2014. I don't know. Your horse is fat. There's just a lot of people saying horses are fat, but there's nothing recent that I can see, I'm afraid. Much as there's that. Oh, vets warn on Reddit that overweight horses are now the new form. Half of all horses in the UK are considered to be super fat, apart from competition horses. So there you go. It's like we don't just feed ourselves to death; we feed all the horses as well.
That's fine. We'll need all those fat horses once Brexit comes.
Of course, they're going to be delicious.
Well, then again, perhaps we're actually beginning to breed them for food.
That's what I mean. Yeah, we're gonna.
Well, no, I'm actually looking at it from a serious perspective, because we do actually send quite a few knackered horses to continental Europe because they
to the Findus factory.
We make glue out of them, right?
And Findus lasagna.
I mean, that's why the European Union actually passed certain legislation, and I remember when this was passed, and the Brits were kind of, crying foul and scandal and whatever, because they were basically saying certain anesthetics and whatever couldn't be given to horses anymore.
Good grief.
And immediately it was sort of, oh, this is cruelty to horses, because if they're, if they kind of suffer any pain or whatever in competition or such thing,
yes.
We should be able to give them these painkillers. And the Europeans were just pointing out, well, of course you can. There's nothing to stop you from being able to do that. You just can't sell the horse thereafter as foodstuff to the Europeans.
Those Europeans and their craving for horse meat. You know, who knew?
you sort of get this image of tens of thousands of kind of zombified continental Europeans walking the streets in search of heroin because they've eaten too much horse meat.
Oh yes, or ketamine. The people in chat are going. We be like Captain Swiss is like, we need a sugar cube tax. Brexit will mean skinnier horses. This is all Peter's fault. They said that you should feed a fed horse. There's a German dish called Sauerbraten, made from horse meat. Very delicious. I don't have anything against eating horses, but then I've never seen them as pets, which apparently most of the British public do, which is just very strange.
I'm afraid most of the British public sees any animal as a pet.
I mean, yes. Why else do you think that we make our cow meat into round, delightful shapes and call it beef?
That's actually the French influence.
Interesting. I would have thought it was the German, given burger. But
no, the reason we call it beef.
Is it for boeuf?
It's from bœuf. Yes, all the food stuff is French named because the Norman lords were obviously French speakers, but
Assholes.
The animals, they are basically they were looked after. The herds of the animals, they were looked after by the Saxons, by the servants. So they used Germanic words. So therefore, we've got things like pig. So the pig herd would just refer to the animal as that's a pig, but to the lord to whom it was served, it was bar or pork. And the same thing with sheep and mouton, mutton. And so basically all the food stuff had French names because the Norman lords, they basically only saw the food stuffs arrive. So their words for it basically took over for it as a food stuff, but as a living animal, it has the old Saxon names. So sorry, yes, my inner nerd has been kicked off again. Sorry.
What about square sausage?
It's actually that is entirely a Scotsman's fault, of course, because the place I picked up all that information was from Sir Walter Scott's Ivanhoe. So blame the Scots.
I mean, you make an apology for your anecdotes, Britisher, but why do you think I have you on? I mean, really. Joe Neverton says any animal is a pet if you're brave enough.
I believe the reason you have me on is to get me to say the word tank several times. Yes.
Oh, of course, yes. Any animal is a pet if you're brave enough, but who'd willingly buy Owen Jones? That's strong. I don't think I've ever hated anyone truly until I saw Owen Jones. Oh my god, I love that. Just anything on Owen Jones is just. Didn't he make a comment about like how? Yeah, so he did this thing the other day where I'll see if I can find it. Actually, he basically made this really stupid comment about how if any time a left-wing politician gets attacked, the entirety of the right wing is to blame, and they should be held accountable for like anyone who makes any comment against the left-leaning politician or someone on the left. And it was like, oh yeah, it's all tolerance and everything until you could blame like anyone who doesn't think exactly the same way as you for something, sort of group guilt and so on and so forth. It was horrendous. And you just go, oh, Owen, you bourgeois socialist, you with your millions of pounds and your, very cushy columnist job.
I think the proper reaction, the appropriate reaction is to lean back, smile, and go, that's our Owen.
That's our Owen.
And just let it pass.
Maybe he could be society's pet. If no one will take personal responsibility for him, he could just be there by his good evening, Staff Sergeant Sniper. And he says, and I get here 76 minutes late as usual. Bless him. If only what you don't realize is that I stream deliberately to ensure that you get here 90 minutes late. That's the main gist of it. I'll take Owen Jones as a circus attraction, like P.T. Barnum, and have a musical made about me. I mean, I don't really get the reference, but this is the greatest show. I see. Yes, quite possible. Let me see. What was there? there's this is something which has been going around this week with surprising regularity. I've seen it 3 or 4 times, which is a woman's bizarre illness means she can't hear men's voices.
Sounds good to me. I read that as well, and the comments were rather amusing.
Well, it's always plenty of women going, "How do I get this?"
Yes,
Plenty
I would
of men.
gladly. Yeah,
Plenty of men going, "How do I get this?" Plenty of men saying, "You'll miss us when we're gone."
I think 90% of women already have this anyway.
Yeah, selective hearing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, it's just the ability to consciously switch off, right? The patient, who has been only named as Chen, said she felt sick and could hear, had tinnitus in her ears the night before, and thought going to sleep might help. But when she woke up, she panicked when she realized she was unable to hear her boyfriend talking to her. Took herself into hospital in East China and realized she could hear her female doctor's voice perfectly. Diagnosed with low frequency hearing loss after she said she'd been working late, putting her body under stress and not getting enough sleep. So apparently this has caused a loss of sensitivity to deep sounds, which only allow her to hear women's voices.
She can't listen to Barry White ever again.
Never again. I've got the comments.
She hasn't got any problem with the communards.
Exactly, yeah.
Of course not. There's some gold stuff. Like there was, I saw a comment which was from a trans woman saying, or like on Twitter, she quoted it saying, you know, it made it about her and says something along the lines of, "Because I was forced to go through non-consensual puberty, this woman will never be able to hear my voice." Because just non-consensual puberty.
Non-consensual
because
puberty.
of her bitch parents or whatever it was she was saying. It was some ridiculousness like that.
We have now reached peak social justice.
Yes,
that was good. We have now reached non-consensual reality. Just savor that for a moment.
Just for a second.
Non-consensual reality. Yes.
So there was that side. Vincent Palmer has commented. Pinner has commented, "I've got the same problem with my wife. She never listens." What a tragedy in sarcasm. This is not a disease, you idiots. It's called being a woman. It's just like, oh my goodness. If a woman becomes a man, at what point does she stop hearing herself? Oh dear, I love the silliness of it. Just the pure silliness. A super chat has come through. JS £2 says, "See that Anna Soubry? That's your mum, that is." That's such a great sketch. I love that sketch. Just in general. You see that puddle? Yes, that one by the side of the road with all the leaves and stuff in it. The one with the piece of horse poo by the side. That's the one. That's your bath, that is. That's your swimming pool. That's where you do lengths for fun. It's just so ridiculous. Oh dear. If you don't know what comedy sketch that I'm talking about, you should. And I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. It's like History Today or something like that. It's great. But yes, you know that one, don't you, Brisha? You must.
I think I know to which comedy thing you refer to, but I think you also will have noticed that while you were talking, I was not splitting my sides.
Fair enough. My dad loves that one. But so we now know British's opinion on some great British comedy. I understand now. I understand. How do I become deaf to screechy women? Oh no, but they've missed. How do I become deaf to screechy women? There will be no deaf to screechy women here, Barnaby, no matter how much you want to do it. But yes, Newman and Baddiel's History Today. Yes, that's the one from And. Thank you, And. Every time Owen Jones points out a social injustice, he loses a wrinkle, says Captain Switzerland. Oh dear, I love it. Right, well, I think that's about it for today in terms of what I had to discuss. Unless you've got something else that you wanted to bring up, I could always bring up my emergency article of the nudist cafe forced to close because the owners can't get enough bums on seats. But I just think that finishing before that is actually somewhat more of a mercy than going through the article itself. Oh dear.
Well, it's funny that you should mention a nudist colony at the same episode in which I mentioned Louis de Funès.
Well, yes. Oh, my
Because you
God.
see, he had a classic, and actually these were quite good films. He had a classic series of movies where he was the gendarme in Saint-Tropez, and one of the best scenes ever was when his police force, under his command, of course, had to had to round up the nudists on the beach in the south of France. And it had everything. It ticked all the boxes. It basically just kind of obviously made a lot of fun about nudity, and of course they had to infiltrate one of the policemen into the nudist colony, who was then basically desperately walking around clutching his newspaper to his groin, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
Whilst the others were laughing, watching with binoculars. Meanwhile, I think they also had several frogmen lurking in the water just offshore, so that they could basically spring on them from all sides in order to not allow the herd to escape, if you know what I mean. And,
You'll notice that I understand what you're saying, Britisher, but that I'm not splitting my sides.
yes, there is that. Yes, there is that. Mind you, yes, I can see that the deep law, as you call them, have once again sprung into action.
As they call themselves. I think I found my thumbnail for this video.
And
certainly.
I have somehow been turned into Chiang Kai Britisher.
I don't even know. I mean, just the choice of mustache impresses me. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I mean, there's some stuff in there that's entertaining, like this one.
Oh well, there you go, Fantomas. Yes.
So that's that. But no, thank you very much for joining me, gentlemen, and thank you, audience, for coming along as well. It's been an absolute pleasure to host this week's Fake Accents Unite. And thank you for all your donations, by the way. I will see you next week. I am hoping to get a Not So Newsworthy out this week. Unfortunately, it's not come out this week, despite my best efforts, due to some unforeseen personal circumstances that will be cleared by tomorrow. But until next time, take care, good night, and have a great week.
Take care.